data science, AI, education. Welcome to our final keynote panel. So we have Lisa Weber, Assistant Superintendent of Instruction from Suffern Central School District, and Teresa Grossane, Director of Mathematics and Computer Science at Huntington School District. And we are going to talk to two administrators who are on the forefront of driving computer science education initiatives in their districts. We know we're all working on this across the state, and it's really good, as I mentioned, to just hear from other districts about what they're doing. That's what we're going to do today. So, Teresa, Lisa, can I ask you to introduce yourselves and share a little bit more about your districts?
You want me to start? So this is my fourth year in Huntington School District. I am the Director of Mathematics and Computer Science, and have been, I guess, since the start of the rollout. We started the rollout a couple of years back, and I'll go through that a little later. But it's my passion, computer science. It's funny because I always say everything comes full circle. I started out in college as a computer science major. And back then, all it was coding, and it was dry. And I was like, I can't do this. And then I became a math teacher. So now I'm so lucky to be supervising math and computer science at Huntington School District.
Great, thank you. I also started as a math teacher. And then was a math coordinator for a number of years. I've been the assistant superintendent in Suffern since 2013, so I've been here a while. Lucky for me, Suffern had already started implementing computer science in spots. Wasn't necessarily consistent across the grade levels. And in the time I've been here, I've been able to expand that work significantly. So I have a community that's very open, willing, and wants innovative and digital practices and computer science. So that's very helpful. It's always well received.
Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing. So folks know Suffern is up in Rockland County.
Yes.
Huntington is out in Nassau County, right? On Long Island.
It's in Suffolk County.
Oh, Suffolk, sorry.
Yes, we're on the North Shore, like on the Sound.
Yes, sorry. My apologies, Suffolk. Amazing. So we know where we are in the world. So can you tell us a little bit about the computer science content offered in your districts across different grade levels and any steps that you took to develop this program? And feel free to bring up slides if it's helpful for you to help our audience digest what you're doing at your districts.
Do you want me to start?
Sure.
Lisa, would you like me to start?
Yeah.
Okay, great. Let me share my screen. Wait a minute. It's in settings, right? Oh, no. Wait. Sorry.
Open share menu down. Where
Open share. Okay, share. Okay, let me get to where I want to. Oh, wait a minute. I got to go back. Okay. Share. I think I got it.
There we go.
Can you see it?
Yes, we can.
Yes.
Okay, awesome. Okay. So I'm just going to kind of go through it, and I won't speak too long. But when I first started here, we were lucky enough to be part of the Smart Start grant. I think we're in year 4 now. We have 1 more year left. And because of that, we were able to train our K-8 teachers, which included on the elementary level, which included all librarians, and a group of, I would say, 10 teachers a year, K-6 teachers, along with our librarians, because of the Smart Start grant. And in the beginning, it was just familiarizing themselves with the standards, like learning that they're in by band, learning that there's 5 key ideas, is really familiarizing themselves with the standards. That was like the first year or 2. And then after that, they started to look, and I'm going to go into the slide now. They started to break down, let me see if I can pull this up. As you here, here are the standards. And this is the clarifying statement that state document has put out. And what we started to do is created can you see it?
I think you have to share the other screen.
Oh, now I have to share the screen.
If you bring up another
Let me
document.
go back.
But
oh, wait a minute. Let me see. How do I do that? Can you see it now or no?
no, but it's okay. We can.
Okay.
In the chat for folks
Let me
to look
see. Let me try one other thing. It says I'm sharing, but you can't see.
It's just sharing the presentation tab.
Okay.
I'll share the link in the chat so that people can actually go to it.
Okay. So what we started to do is we took the standards and then we created a document that actually divided the standards by, let me go back. Sorry. Let me go back. Let me see if I can pull this up. If I can, I'll speak to it. We started to decide which grade level was going to implement which standard. So the K1, some were done in kindergarten, some were done in first grade, etc. And this took about a year to do, believe it or not.
Mhm.
All right, I'm going to go back now. So what we did again was we took all the bands and we said, okay, these are going to be done in kindergarten, these are going to be done in first grade, etc., etc. And so that took about a year and a half. And then after that, what we did was we created a scope and sequence with, which I'm hoping I can open, probably not. Let me see if I can. Let me see.
If you share it in the chat, people can.
Okay.
Oh, there you go. We can see that.
Can you see that?
That's good. Yeah.
So this is like a scope. This is grade 4, and we took all the standards, and then what we did was we put in activities to address each of the standards. And again, this was done by teachers, the librarian. I'm going to go back. I know you can't really see it, so there's no point. But this was done by the classroom teachers that were part of the Smart Start grant, the library media specialists, myself, and we all sat around and we met a couple of times a year to kind of put this scope and sequence together by grade level. So we have a scope and sequence K through 6. Our 6th grade is not in the middle school, it's in our elementary school. And so that's how we kind of developed it. And by the way, we also provided staff development. So not only did we have a team of teachers that took about a year or 2 to create this, then we have mandatory professional developments that were done in the fall and the spring to kind of introduce the standards, to introduce the scope and sequence to the rest of the staff in all of the buildings. So it was really to try to get buy-in, to try to support classroom teachers, especially elementary teachers, which, as we know, it really needs to kind of get immersed the standards within the classroom teacher and in the library media period as well with the library media specialists. So it was a joint effort, but I can't thank enough the district because they were on full support of implementing these standards with fidelity, and they supported us 100% in order to try to roll this out. Should I keep going? Or do you want me to stop? Let's see. I'm going to stop sharing now because I don't think it's really I'd rather just speak to it. It's probably easier now. Did you put the presentation in the chat, Tom, or no?
I'll put the presentation in the chat now.
Yeah, that may help because there's all links and everything in there. So after the K through 6, what we did was, technology is taught at the middle level and in our 7th and 8th grade. We're lucky enough to have technology taught in both of those grade levels. So what we did was we revised the curriculum in both 7 and 8. And 8, really, we focused on the hardware, which is one of the 5 key ideas in the standards. And 7 really focuses on the other 3 or 4, the 7th grade tech. So that was probably the easiest place to get the standards in because the courses were already there and existed at the middle level. Then at the high school level, that was a challenge. The standards are quite robust at the high school level, and we really looked at it. And again, I can't thank the district enough. We have an initiative now where at Huntington High School, you have to take a computer science class before you graduate high school. So that really provided an opportunity to really not only educate our teachers, but also get all different levels of academic abilities involved in a computer science class. So that started, I know we started that last year, and we rolled it out where we did half of the freshmen were required to take it in the freshman year, and the rest of that cohort took it as sophomores. And we really have created a great computer science pathway now, because now at a younger grade levels, 9 and 10, our kids are getting introduced to computer science, and now are looking for more and other courses. Do you want me to keep going? Because I can speak more to the high school.
Why don't we switch to Lisa, and then
okay, that's fine.
Questions in the chat as well.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So okay. I want to hear both perspectives here.
All right, and Tom, maybe you could share my second slide, the one with the PLTW launch slide in the left corner.
I'm going to share it right now.
I felt too intimidated, Teresa, to try and use a new platform and present at the same time. So kudos to you. We have had, when I got here in 2013, so 12 years ago, we already had Project Lead the Way at the middle school, and the high school was already in place. About a year after I got here, we launched PLTW launch at the elementary level. So we have had some computer science in every grade level, K-8 for all students. And we've had electives at the high school for more than a decade. So we were in a pretty good place. So we kind of took a different approach. Well, we took somewhat the same and somewhat of a different approach. The same part was we put together a committee. In our case, it was a K-12 committee, because I really wanted folks to see the continuum. I also picked people that were representative of different content areas in the secondary. I made sure I had some humanities teachers. I made sure I had some math science teachers, and I made sure I had some encore, particularly art teachers. What we did a very similar thing, but we had a spreadsheet, and we color coded the spreadsheet for each standard. And we said green means we're already doing it. Yellow means we may or may not be doing it, but we think we should be doing it, or that it's not for all kids. And red was like, you know what, that's not a priority for us. We're not putting in, 200 standards all at once. We'll get that in the next round. Kind of different things come up in different places. So in the elementary, most of our computer science is through Project Lead the Way launch and through Google CS First. We build that into our science curriculum. So they're designated units within our science curriculum. So our classroom teachers teach it. None of them are certified in computer science, but they're grade level teachers. They really own the work because it's their science curriculum. We gave them a lot of PD, a lot of ongoing PD around it. As we get new teachers, we teach them get them used to Project Lead the Way, which has a lot of its own components. We found that when we went through the standards, we also got some help from some less likely places. And so our amazing police department, the Ramapo Police Department, comes in every year and does assemblies for our 6th, 7th, and 8th graders at the middle school around cybersecurity and their digital footprint and digital literacy and digital citizenship. So it was funny how many of the digital literacy and cybersecurity standards our police department was actually hitting in their annual presentation. The other thing that does at the middle school is it gives our kids a common language. So now our teachers are using the same language as the kids, and kind of we have that universal thing. So that's probably not everyone has that. So that was kind of a cool piece. We also started a cybersecurity program at the high school through Digital Promise. And I may talk about that a little later with Tom's questions. That's been an avenue for us to get some more underrepresented groups in. If you go to the next slide, Tom, we were also part of the Smart Start grant. We actually started a little earlier because I know I had at least one cohort in the 1920 school year. I think that was my first one during COVID. And then in 2021, we had a remote cohort through the Rockland BOCES Smart Start. Another place that's not maybe the first one that comes to mind that we've addressed a lot of the standards is in our art classes. So class through NICE, one of our art classes, one of our art teachers took this. She can't recommend it enough. She says it's absolutely amazing. And so now we have the rest of our art teachers taking that course. She was also part of the Smart Start grant. So she's like a real leader in that work. I think I could stop there and we can kind of see where the next questions go. We also have, the one other thing I'll add is we also try and make it fun. We have Hour of Code. We celebrate Hour of Code. I was just actually, for another thing I'm working on, went through and I found our first Hour of Code was in 2014. So, you know, we're working on, you know, a decade plus of Hour of Code. So, you know, there's kind of, it's not, you know, we've made some adjustments, which I'll get to later, about what we're going to do differently and what we need to, some areas that we had gaps, but it's kind of been well established and has some different aspects to it.
Amazing. A lot of the questions in the chat are being answered, so I want to cover them for the video since we're recording here. Did you have certified CS teachers implementing these standards?
No. Only at the high school, and only one of my high school teachers.
Only at the high school too.
Yeah.
I have tech teachers at the middle school, but not computer science certified.
Correct, same here.
And for your district graduation requirement, how did you manage staffing for your district graduation requirement, Teresa?
So we rolled this out over a course of 1.5 years, 2 years. So now from when I started, I had one computer science class 4 years ago with one teacher. And now I have 3 full-time computer science classes. So the district was committed to building the program, and I'll get to it later, but we're still building it. It's still in motion. So, and I'll get to that later. So they were behind the additional staff. The district absolutely was.
Teresa, how large is your high school? You said you have 3.
1,400 kids.
Okay, wow, that's impressive.
Mm-hmm.
How large is yours?
Our high school is 1,500, and we have 2 now with the cybersecurity. We're at like 1.6, I guess.
Great. And what do you think were the key levers to get buy-in from your district to actually invest in these initiatives?
Like I said, the Smart Start grant was here before I started here at Huntington, so that was huge that we participated in that grant. I think it gave us a platform to continue to develop our implementation plan. And again, I can't say enough about the support. You need buy-in from all different stakeholders to make this work. And I'm lucky enough to have a buy-in from everybody to be able to get this off and running. And like I said, we're not done by any stretch. So.
I want to note Huntington, when you search like Huntington computer science, you found that like you've presented at your school board many times about computer science. Like they have many notes about we're adopting this course, we're on this pathway. So school boards perhaps are a key lever that I've noticed even just on your website. Lisa, how do you think you've gotten buy-in for your programs?
I think we got buy-in, really say from the staff, because we made it part of the science curriculum. It wasn't an extra, it was an expectation. We gave them the PD to do it. And interestingly, I would say my elementary teachers own the teaching of computer science more than my secondary teachers, with the exception of the tech teachers. It's very common for an elementary teacher to say, oh, why don't you do that project in Scratch? Or Scratch can be an option for them to do it. We kind of had to get our middle school teachers on board and our high school teachers like, it's okay if you don't know how to do it because the kids do. So that was a big buy-in with the teachers. I think our community, like I said, our community expects it. It's in our mission and vision that we're going to be innovative and cutting edge and things like that. I haven't been able to get that kind of level of staffing or a graduation requirement, but now I have something to ask for my superintendent.
There you go. And one more question that came up. Do you foresee having to adjust the scope and sequence when all your K-5 students start moving up through the district? Like, what changes about computer science as students are coming through?
I absolutely think it's a work in progress. It's a live document, just because we get new apps all the time. So now we're training. The last set of training I did a couple weeks ago was on using different apps to be able to use to implement the standards. So it's a constant learning, constant looking at it. Now we're going to meet again in January, and we're going to review the scope and sequences to see what adjustments we need to make. And I expect adjustments, and that's what, we should be making adjustments. So it's always a work in progress.
Yeah. And I would add that to that, the generative AI is a huge piece of that. And it's funny, we were doing we had some other focuses for elementary last year. So overall, I didn't do as much with computer science last year with elementary. I just did recently at our conference day. And I was sharing the timeline of the computer science standards with them, which were written pre-COVID, and don't mention AI. And so I've connected that to, I think it's DL5, which talks about emerging technologies. And so that's where we've embedded AI into DL5. And it's just, that's a game changer all around.
Yeah. Interestingly, the original draft version of our New York State standards had AI as a topic, but it was eliminated because computer science as a broad topic covers a lot of the elements of AI, such as impacts of computing, such as algorithms, computational things. So when you ask the state, they're like, yes, the computer science and digital fluency standards do cover AI, even if they don't have a section that says AI. But it's very cool. We also asked, so we will share scope and sequences if folks are willing to share. I know, Lisa, you had put one document in the slides as well. So awesome. So thank you for all the good questions. Keep on asking from the audience. This is high engagement. So I wanted to skip ahead to how are you? Of course, Teresa, you have a graduation requirement. Lisa, you're building up to and developing that. But how are you ensuring that all students, particularly female students, students of color, students with disabilities, across all of your buildings, are encouraged to pursue computer science education course pathways? Like, especially if you have multiple courses that are in a sequence, like or students who are deeply engaging, either in clubs, what's your methodology at your district?
So we, at K through 8, everyone gets everything. So K through 8, everyone's getting it. There's no choices. So they're kind of covered in that. At the high school, we really do see a difference between what everybody gets and what only students and electives get. So one of the reasons we started the Cybersecurity Academy, and in conjunction with Digital Promise, which is sort of like the sponsoring organization, is a focus on underrepresented groups. So we really very actively recruit underrepresented groups to participate in the cybersecurity program. It is a 3-year program, which results in a number of certifications that kids get that they can go right into the workforce. There's an internship program in year 3. So there's, for kids who may not be going right to college or may not be going away to college and need to work their way through college, there's an incentive kind of built into cybersecurity that there's a good chance this is going to help them get a job. So that's kind of one of the motivators with that, but it's definitely an area of focus in terms of our recruiting of students. The other piece I'll mention is we do have a class at the high school. It's called ninth grade writing seminar, and it's a class that does what it sounds like it does. It is a real focus on writing and getting kids ready for high school level of writing. But that class is a class that almost everybody takes. And so we have a computer science thread that goes through that. So there's a lot of digital literacy, digital citizenship, how to use the technology is included in there. We've now incorporated AI into that. So that's another stream. We also have a club associated with cybersecurity. So if kids aren't in the class, they're in the club. And then of course we have a robotics club. And then we have our like CSAP route, which is historically something we've had for a very long time again, but it has, you know, that we still struggle with having more girls and more underrepresented groups in there. So it's definitely a work in progress.
So, you know, I think that, you know, since we offer that course in the high school, everyone, and K through 8, you know, it's all pretty much immersed into the classroom instructional library media center, those tech classes in the middle school. By offering this course that everyone has to take before, now we kind of changed it and modified it a little bit. We're gonna, as long as they take the course before they graduate high school instead of offering it in just 9th and 10th grade, because we didn't want them to miss out on other electives in other areas. So we now allowing them to take a computer science course before they graduate. But my point is that we here at Huntington, a computer science class counts as a math credit. So we get a lot of students, not a lot, but I have psych students, I have Ls, and they come here later, 16, 17 years old, and they need 3 math credits as well as passing Algebra 1 and the Algebra Region. So this computer science not only helps them with graduation requirements when it comes to math, but it also opens up an opportunity of something brand new that they don't feel like they can't be successful. Because sometimes when you do math over and over and over and you're struggling, you don't want to do it anymore. So here we have a new opportunity, a new pathway for students to get a fresh start. And it has really been such a huge plus to really get all different types of students involved into computer science.
Amazing. Great ideas. So I wanted to ask you about district leadership. So of course, y'all are district leaders, but who else from your district leadership, from your school leadership, have caught the computer science bug? Who else, and how did that happen from, you know, maybe it was just a silo of a program to building broad support? Like what leaders were essential to be involved? And can you share any specific initiatives or policies that have been particularly helpful to get leadership bought in? You know, the math, counting as a math credit is a great one, right? But is there anything, especially the people and the policies, that come to mind around leadership?
I'm going to speak to my, she's now the superintendent of the district, but she was the assistant super curriculum instruction. And she was key in getting involved in the Smart Start grant. And because of that, we started to build capacity. There are other, we have an instructional technology supervisor, administrator, I should say. She's been very, very much involved. We've worked as a team here. And you can't do this by yourself. It's a team of teachers, administrators. It's just a huge team. My secretary, it's just a big part of really getting it off the ground. So, like I said, it's you got to have support without a doubt.
Yeah, I agree. The Smart Start grant was a huge piece in giving, you know, my early adopters the tools. But in terms of leadership, the other thing I did is last year with our K-12 CSDF implementation team, I voluntold an administrator from each level to be on the committee. So I had an elementary principal and I had assistant principals from both the middle school and the high school. So I said, we can't do anything without, you know, you being a part of this. So it was either going to be the principal or an assistant principal. We don't have, I don't have anyone that's in Teresa's position to advocate for it. So I really was the one who had to do it because I'm the only one who kind of works K-12 in all those areas. So, but that was really, you know, it's kind of how we do things here. But it was important for me to have that, a leader from each level and also for the teachers to see that there was a leader from each level, so that they were making it, when they were making a recommendation, they knew they were hearing it.
Excellent. I see some echoing in the chat. Leadership is crucial for sure. So thank you for bringing people along with you, volunteering people. We know it's important, of course. Are there any partnerships that have been helpful in the development? So we've talked a lot about Smart Start, of course. That's going to be a key lever with the next round of grants coming up soon. But any other partnerships that have been helpful through other professional development or enhancing opportunities for your students?
I would say that the Ramapo PD, like I said, I mentioned it earlier, but that's a really big one for us. I'll also add, we put our elementary guidance counselors, we didn't have elementary guidance counselors prior to when we had to a few years ago. And right before COVID, I think that was around. When we put elementary counselors in the building, one of the things we've now put on their plate is digital citizenship. So that's brought in, again, another layer. We weren't consistent with digital citizenship. Like, teachers were kind of doing their own thing and using their own terminology. So by putting it into the guidance counselors' hands, it gave us that consistent language across the board. So they've been another component that's not necessarily what you would have expected, but they've been really great in making sure we're consistent in the language we use with kids. For us, Project Lead the Way is also a big partner. And then we have a group of people, we call them instructional facilitators at the elementary level. They're really our enrichment folks and our STEAM folks. And so they're a really tight, very high functioning, very experienced group. Computer science is not the only thing they do, but they do it particularly well. So they've been really great thought leaders and implementers moving forward.
So I can't say enough about Siena College and Jim Matthews. He's been an inspiration not only to me, but to my 3 computer science teachers. I met him, believe it or not, I think it was a state math conference two years back. And we started partnering with Siena on their Discovering class, which is a high school class, which is not college credit, but he provides the curriculum and the support for the teachers. And we started there, and now we offer through Siena. We're going to start a web design class next September. We're partnering with Siena. We already partner with our AP Principles class, and our AP Computer Science A classes will all be partnered with Siena. So it's dual enrollment, AP/college for the Principles class and for the A class. What I love about Siena is that my teacher right now is sitting in a Siena class to teach the web design class for next September, and it doesn't cost us anything. But besides that, the amount of support that they're getting and the other computer science teachers they're meeting across the state is invaluable. So I can't say enough. And but we are also gonna partner, because Jim doesn't have a cybersecurity class yet. He told me yet. So we're partnering with Farmingdale State College next September to offer a cybersecurity class. So we've really started to build our pathway. And I'm looking at actually meetings with someone from Siena on Monday with actually the 4 of us to look at a data science class. So we're just, I think the partnership is huge because it provides consistency in curriculum, and it also supports teachers.
Amazing.
We've been looking at some of their, through our cybersecurity teacher, we've made a connection with them, Teresa, but we haven't followed through yet. So that's great to hear. And I did neglect to mention Digital Promise again, which is where we run our cybersecurity.
Awesome. Amazing. I'm hearing both internal partnerships with places you might not expect, like guidance, and external partnerships, especially with universities. Universities are eager to partner with schools and help out, both from computer science departments like that group at Siena does, and also from education departments like teacher certification programs. So there are a lot of options for folks. So I am capturing the questions from the chat. No worries. We'll get to them at the very end here. But I wanted to ask about your future goals. Everyone says, it's always a work in progress. Your future goals related to your computer science program. What are you still working on improving and why?
You want me to start?
So I have.
Oh, go ahead, Lisa, you go.
Okay, so I have two things. So Tom, if you could put up my chart with my X's on it.
Yes.
So it took me like over a year to figure out to look at it this way. And I just about a month ago took all of our computer science standards in K-12 and put them in this little chart to show where we were teaching everything. And so if there's an X there, that's good. That means we're explicitly teaching it. The black boxes are those standards don't apply in those grades. The standards are across the top if the screen's too little, and the grade levels are across in the first column. And so X's are good. Blanks aren't so good. The red X's that you see in the middle in 5th grade is a new project Lead the Way unit that we're going to implement this year for the first time. It's input, output, computer science. It's direct computer science unit. So we're going to cover lots of standards with that. And then in the high school, you'll see there's a mix of X's and E's. So the X's are things that all students get. The E's are things that kids who are in electives get. And that elective can vary from art to music to cybersecurity to, drawing, design, production, or, CS, one of the AP computer science classes. It just varies. And so one of our future goals is to have X's all over this. Even like NSD1 is one we've really struggled with. And then my art teachers were like, well, we do that with 3D printing, so a ton of the NSDs that we were struggling with, my art teachers have covered. So that's always nice when that happens. So that's one of our goals. And then I would say our next other goal is incorporating artificial intelligence into this. We did develop guidelines, which we rolled out this fall for use of artificial intelligence. We have some tools that we're letting teachers and students use. We have guidelines, we have expectations for students. We have some like, what do we do if a student misuses AI? But obviously there's so much more that can grow. And so that's kind of what I'm looking at. I would say that's like the near future. That's like now to 2 or 3 years from now.
Awesome. Yes, AI, big topic, needs to be addressed at some point by all districts. Excellent.
So where are we going in Huntington? Well, we are also doing a lot of AI training K through 8 with the teachers, and we'll be meeting probably like twice a year to keep reviewing those scope and sequences that we created K through 6, because like I said, it's a live document. And on the secondary level at the high school, what we really, and it came out this morning with the presenters you had this morning, is to reach out and really get the kids, the younger generation, educated on the opportunities that are now out in the workforce. So actually, I'm working on having my son come in because he's an analyst, and he didn't start as an analyst, and to speak to a couple of our computer science classes at the high school. I want to try to bring in speakers that are now in the workforce that are doing jobs that our kids, our students don't know exist. So it's really preparing them for the workforce, not only with the skills, but understanding all the opportunities that are out there for our young adults in high school. So that's like a huge goal of ours, is to kind of bring it to life. Okay, now you're taking all these computer science classes. Where can I use it? Where can I go? Or maybe just realizing that maybe they may want to change their path, and maybe that's not the path for them. But to provide these opportunities for kids to be able to think about where they may want to go. So bringing in speakers and making it real life is huge for us right now.
Awesome. Amazing. That made me think of, I'm going to share in the chat, Monroe One BOCES up near Rochester has a list of career connections videos. They were all from let's say, occupations you wouldn't normally think of as tech occupations, like a zoo veterinarian, a certified running coach, a Rochester City police officer. I'll put the link in the chat from their Smart Start resources. And they're all New Yorkers as well. It's nice to see a lot of folks from New York State represented there. So finally, before we get to our audience questions, what advice would you give to districts who might be looking at you like you have three heads and say, wow, I don't know where to start to make our district like that. I know we want our kids to learn this stuff, but we don't know where to get started. So how can you get districts who are just starting out on their journey to just get started? And also think about, of course, we've talked about Smart Start. We'll say it again, right? What other initiatives can they take advantage of that would really help boost them getting started?
I'm going to start. I think the biggest part is making them aware of what the standards are, and realizing that a lot of what goes on in the elementary classrooms, they're already getting those standards in, but they just have, and exactly with both of our Excel sheets and looking at the standards and checking off what they're doing and what they maybe what they can infuse to do, making them aware that it's feasible, but that takes time and it's a process, and you don't want to overwhelm them. That's one thing I've learned through the last few years. If you move too fast, too quick, you're going to overwhelm them, and then they're going to shut down. Some of them, not all of them, but it depends on their comfort level, right, with these standards. So I think if you move slow and steady, and really just provide awareness of what the standards are and saying, oh, I am doing that. That's great. That's great. That's great. All right. Well, now what's left? Where can we kind of get it in? And I think that's the best place to start when it comes to elementary implementation of the standards.
I agree. I think we are doing, I think everyone's doing more than they actually think they're doing. And a cute example was I was with my kindergarten teachers and they're like, well, we're not doing this. And I said, look at this one. And it's the beginning of understanding privacy. And so the kindergarten standard is knowing the difference between private and public places.
Yes.
Like the bathroom. How many times in kindergarten do we talk about the bathroom? The bathroom is a private place. That's a computer science standard. No one's thinking about that when the kid doesn't close the door to use the bathroom, but that's the beginning of teaching that standard. So really, looking deeply into those examples. I would also add, as we said, getting administration involved is really important. Obviously, like in Huntington, your board's involved in hiring enough staff to offer that class, making it fun. Things like Hour of Code, that's a great way to start. It's a fun thing. The kids love it. Code.org has all these resources. And the other thing I would say is, along with Smart Start, there's so many free resources. Like we do Project Lead the Way, and that's an investment. Don't get me wrong. But I just went to the bits and bots from the folks up at St. Lawrence BOCES, and they have addressed all of the K-6 standards with a lesson for free. And you can just access it. And so there's so many things out there, Common Sense Media, the state has a bunch of things. Mm-hmm. So you can do it without spending a ton of money. You do have to spend a lot of time, but you don't have to spend a lot of money. The other thing we did at the secondary, I don't think I mentioned this yet, is after we did the initial presentation to the entire staff, we had them we did this for middle school and high school. We did it separately for the two groups. We had them take a survey where they ranked for each computer science digital fluency standard. We had them rank if they felt it was something all students should know, something some students should know, or if kids should have an opportunity to learn, or they didn't see it as a priority at this time. And then our focus for this year is on the top 10 standards that they identified as the standards they felt all students should know, because now they have to have a role in that. So if they think all students need to know it, then they need to help us teach it. And if you can put up my last slide, because this is what I tell them over and over again, that this was their biggest takeaway every time we talk about the CSDF standards. Their most important takeaway is that these standards do not live in one content area. They don't live in one grade level. They don't live in one department. They live in all of our classrooms. And that's something that's different about these standards. So that's kind of my mantra and my message. And that if we ignore them, we can't, I love that quote on the bottom, that we need to, our kids, and it was so funny when I was talking to the kindergarten teachers about AI, we talk about AI's maybe half our lives, and we talk about our teenagers that it's the rest of their lives. But for our little ones, AI is their whole life. Mm-hmm. So we all have a role in that.
Amazing. Love this quote. So we're going to get to some questions. Folks can add more questions into the chat. I had a couple saved up here. I think Joe asked, it seems like there's momentum to bring meaningful career connections to computer science. What initiatives at your district could support that? And we talked about cybersecurity. We talked about.
He wants to know, what are we doing about career? I'm sorry, say that again.
Career connections to computer science. I'll put the chat.
Yeah, I think I addressed that before when I talked about, bringing in speakers, bringing in graduates that have gone, graduates from Huntington that have gone into positions where they need to know something about technology. Like I said before, it's not coding anymore. I think what Lisa, what you had said before, and it kind of entered my brain. When you said computer science years ago was coding, right? Like Lisa, what the examples you gave were all unplugged activities. Like we don't think, those that are not involved in computer science don't think about all the unplugged activities that really do embed the computer science into their instructional practice. So I wanted to mention that, what Lisa had said before. But again, just, getting our kids like seeing the world and the opportunities. And I think that's super important. So they know the reason and the purpose for these standards. We're trying to make connections for them.
Yes, I agree. We do have an advisory board that's associated with our Cybersecurity Academy. So that's professionals, in the community who work in that field, internships, things like that. But we also, along the lines of the alumni, our social media team does like a highlight, a spotlight on all kinds of alumni who are doing all kinds of neat things. But, planting in their minds that, like, let's make sure we include some computer science related ones or technology ones, or people who are in a job that didn't exist when they were in high school, in roles like that, and just kind of getting it out there. Of course, we can always do better.
Awesome. So there was another question I'll put back into the chat. How do you balance the CS for All broad approach and a more focused strategy? I think what this is trying to ask is, how do you balance like integrating the standards across all subject areas versus perhaps creating a pathway? Did I get that right? I think it was Jill who asked that.
So here at Huntington, what we did, we created the scope and sequences by grade level. And then I met with each grade level individually to kind of roll it out, to experiment with it, to talk about it. And that's ongoing. Like, that's a fall and a spring kind of thing. But I think, you have this broad scope, all these scope and sequences, and you go, here it is, but you really got to meet with these teachers in small groups so you can address what their concerns are, what their successes are. I think that's for us, that's our focused approach.
And I would just, I would say that we just really make sure, K-8, we're giving all the kids are getting all the opportunities. And then in high school, that's when it starts to focus more. And that's, really kids' choices, what they choose,
Great. And finally, from Nancy, and please feel free to put any more questions into the chat. We have a couple more minutes. Nancy asked, are there partners for AI literacy? I'm assuming to teach students, or are there partners you've looked at, or curricula that you've looked at?
We don't, we don't have anyone specific right now. We use a lot of common sense media. We use a lot of AI for education. Amanda Bickerstaff and her crew are like, they're amazing. The work they put out is incredible.
We just got involved with AI Magic School. And we'll be using that as our AI platform in Huntington. And the teachers are actually getting trained, like as we speak, on using that platform for AI.
So, and we do have school AI. We piloted school AI last spring. We have it this fall. Our local lyric just went signed with Magic School. So as soon as the contracts get done, we'll be jumping on board with Magic School too, because we just want to see which one we like better, or if one resonates more at certain levels than others.
Amazing. All right. Any other questions from our audience? I'm looking at the Q&A, looking at the chat. I think that's everybody. Amazing. Let's give it up for Lisa and Teresa. Thank you so much for the great work that you're doing at your districts, for shining the light for many other districts across the state. This is hugely important for y'all to be here, and we applaud the work that everybody's doing to get there one day. Everyone's on their own schedule, I know, but thank you so much for sharing your stories.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting us. I appreciate it.
Yes.
Of course.
Thank you, Tom. And nice to meet you, Teresa.
Yeah, you too, Lisa. Hopefully we'll see each other in person one day.
All right.
That is literally my next piece of advice, right? When you're at a conference or at any of these opportunities, we need to learn from one another, right?
Yeah.
So closing us out with our piece of advice and a couple of reminders. First, learn from other districts. You can talk to your neighbors and your BOCES. It sounds like Rockland BOCES and Western Suffolk with Teresa have been very helpful partners.